Teresa, you're back. This is the second time officially that you're here co-hosting with me.
I know. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me back.
So for today, we have two topics. You wanted to talk a little bit about sleep, the phenomenon of sleep and why we sleep. And I'm reading a book right now that really speaks to this, so it's timely in that sense. So we're going to talk also about positivity and how negative people can rub off on us. And you had a recent experience that you wanted to share. And I think you were also calling it 2.0, which we can dig into what that's all about. I've been doing a 2.0 exercise myself that I would love to share a little bit about that. And then, as usual, we will conclude with an odd, weird, or strange news story.
Sounds good to me. I'm excited.
Let's talk about the sleep thing. So what got you thinking about this as a topic for us to talk about?
So this is really recent, probably 3 to 4 nights ago, and I was going to bed and I was exhausted. It's been fairly busy at work recently and just, busy in general. And I went to bed and by the way, I had downloaded the Calm app recently, so I've been listening to, the Calm app has good night stories, so I'm listening to that. But whilst I'm listening to that, I also keep thinking how it sent me down this spiral. I was thinking how funny it is that we're so advanced as human beings. We can transplant hearts. We're in a good path of curing cancer. Perhaps we've traveled to the moon. We've sent missions to Mars, etc. But every human being on this earth, and there are so many of us, we have to go to our little battery charger every night. I guess the longest you could stay awake is 36, 42 hours. There's been experiments around that. But, usually you'll crawl to bed every night at some point, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, whatever it is. And you cannot do without. You're going to perish, or you're going to pass out at some point of time. And every human being has to do that. And it's such a long time as well, right? We on average need perhaps 7 hours. I guess there's people who need only 4, but you still have to go through this. You're in a coma, you're going God knows where, your brain is doing all sorts of funny things, your body is repairing. So it has its cause, but it's interesting that is a good chunk of your 24 hours. And it sent me down this spiral that is what every human being and every animal has to do every day.
Yeah, it's interesting. So in the book I'm reading, they talk about how humans are the only animal that actually deprives itself of sleep with no positive benefit. And I think I interpret that to mean that it's the only animal that actually purposely deprives itself of sleep. And I think that's interesting because there's been actually there hasn't been a lot of research until recently about even why we sleep and what happens. And the whole sleep thing has become like a real, I hate to use the term now, but it's kind of an epidemic that actually is something that humans are suffering from. It's lack of sleep. If you look at some statistics, it says that one person dies in a traffic accident every hour in the United States due to fatigue-related error.
Right.
Apparently, drowsy driving exceeds accidents caused by alcohol and drugs combined. So any accidents related to drugs or alcohol, add them all up, they still are less than the amount of people that die due to fatigue-related vehicular accidents.
I'm not surprised to hear that. Actually, just comes up. It seems people are so proud of also saying, I'm so tired, or I've only just slept 4 hours. You might have spoken about this in an episode with Simon a couple of months back when you spoke.
That was the busy
bit,
wearing busy like a badge of honor.
Yeah, which is one of the episodes I had some disagreements with personally. But no, people, I'm being so tired. I only slept 4 hours and here I still am buzzing and going. It's another badge of honor. Oh, I've worked so late. And it's almost like it turns into a competition. I can see that currently happening at my current workplace where, you want to be seen online fairly late. Bothers me a little bit. And it's not, like you said, it's not like you're going to, unless you are somebody that is really active, and some people, sometimes including myself, I have my best ideas, especially on when I have to do some innovative task, then that's when I'm getting the best at. But there is no point of, dragging it out and keeping awake beyond what your body is telling you to do.
Well, and it's interesting because sleep, you're right, it is kind of seen as a weakness, especially when it comes to things like napping. Like if you told somebody that you had a nap from 3 to 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, like if you told a coworker that, or someone that you were like a client, I would imagine that could receive some of a negative reaction for that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's how I feel about it.
That you would feel negative about it, or you would feel that that's a good thing?
I feel negative about it. I rarely ever get tired in the afternoon. I mean, it has happened to me, but I do have friends who proudly nap, and it kind of bothers me. So, I know what I'm saying is I'm kind of contradicting myself. I'm saying, oh, sleep is healthy. You should not be ashamed of sleeping and using all of the hours that you can, if that's what you like. The napping bit, maybe I have nap jealousy. Maybe that is that, because when I nap, I'm just not, I can't be used. I wake up from a nap, let it be an hour, and I need at least another hour to be fully clear and happy again. Other than that, I don't feel well, and I feel like I've been run over by a truck. So I envy people who can have that hour or 45 minutes and then be really energized. They're just like, oh, here I am back at work and I'm feeling great. I can go another 24 hours now, basically. So it's nap jealousy, perhaps.
So nap jealousy because you don't get the positive effects that some people get when they nap, is what you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I do have them. I mean, my body must be thankful for a nap rest if it gets that. But what I hate is what I am feeling. So I wake up and I feel like hot garbage.
Yeah, this book actually has a chapter on napping, or a section about napping. I haven't got to it yet, but I'm interested to read about the effects of napping. What I know about napping is that it can affect people in different ways, absolutely, but there's some discussion around how long you nap for, like 20 minutes. 20 minutes is a good nap time, or 90 minutes, but anything in between that is supposedly really bad. Like you have a higher chance of those two durations apparently have the best potential results for napping. It's kind of, both are very different. One's very short and one's longer, but anything in between or longer, I guess, has some very negative effects. So I personally, when I nap, I have a few rules for it. I've kind of follow that 20-minute, 90-minute thing, and I still wake up with different effects. Sometimes I feel like you said hot garbage, I think it was. My wife refers to it as a sort of a stunned feeling. It's kind of like you're out of sorts and you're sort of like, huh?
Yeah, kind of zoned out. Here? Yeah.
I'm interested to read about this a little bit more in the book to see if they talk about the duration and how napping, maybe they're going to say it's a bad thing, but I suspect some offices are starting to put these little napping pods into. When we were looking at retrofitting our office, there were suggestions that came in. People had put different suggestions in, a vending machine or a fridge for various things, or just different ideas that had come up. And one of them was these napping pods. And so I guess it was reviewed and it never went forward, I think, because it wouldn't fit the standard of the whole company, which it needs to. But it's interesting that napping pods were something that somebody was suggesting. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool. They look like hair dryers, when you go to the salon and you sit under one of those big, so it blocks your face.
All right. So
S-
it wasn't something you could crawl into. It wasn't like a little casket.
no, it was like more like a dental chair that you could sit in, and then it had like this kind of like thing that went over your head so that people,
Shield.
so you could have like multiple chairs in a room. So you might have like 12 chairs or 6 chairs,
Right.
and you could go in. The room would probably be, dimly lit, and just have I guess whatever would be conducive to napping, and that you would have the privacy aspect of these pods or whatever. I'll find the pods and put them in the show notes so people can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think there is a negative. I think napping does get a negative rap, and I think unfairly so. Because I think, especially now with people are kind of working in different ways too, right? Like some people are starting their days at 7 a.m. and then they take breaks. And what's wrong with taking a break between 2:30 and 3:30 to have a nap if that makes you more effective?
Yep, I agree. There's also a strategy that consists of, so you're not getting one patch of sleep per day, but you're taking basically 4 patches. So the average sleep amount of time is 8 hours. So instead of doing that, you do 4 times 1 hour. I hear that some athletes have tried doing that in order to increase the time they can be active and train, or managers, so they have more time to be awake and actually work. So 4 times per day, you take an hour and a half. So you bring down your total sleep time, but the time that your body has to recover, like it almost thinks it's the same. But I don't know what the studies around that is and whether that is actually true. There was I remember watching a YouTube clip around that quite a while back where somebody has tried it and they're like, God, it was awful. Like I did it for a week and it was just really, really, really horrible. I mean, I was awake in the middle of the night and getting work done, and then I'd go back to sleep and I'd sleep during the day. So it was like almost like a kangaroo sort of rhythm.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see this 90-minute study and what that means, because does that work for everybody? Does it only work for some people? To me, the whole idea of going to bed and getting up 4 times in a day sounds really messed up to me.
Yeah, I could say so much more about this. I'm listening also to this podcast, this calm history about the science of sleep by a guy called Dr. Steve Orma. And he goes on to say that, just like your hair color is different, your blood type is different, your eye color is different, so is everybody's sleep pattern. 7 hours is the anticipated average, but it is really spread all over, and everybody sleeps different, behaves differently. What he says is there's like almost social pressure also the other way. So, well, there's social pressure of not sleeping enough, because you're cool if you sleep little. But then he also says we're putting ourselves under pressure if we do not get that sleep, right? We all know that moment when we're lying awake, we're like, God, I gotta go to sleep now. I'll be tired tomorrow. So contrary to what you say to fatigue caused accidents around the world, he says, don't worry about it. If you're lying awake at night and you cannot get yourself to sleep mode, just get up, do something else. Don't put yourself under pressure to fall asleep. Even if you only get 3 hours, you're going to be just fine. Probably less, if you're operating heavy machinery, if you're a pilot, if you're a doctor, that is probably going to be more risky. But people like me and you in an office environment where we also stress so much about doing a good job daily and, shining and being great about everything, don't stress so much about it. Relax about it. You're going to go through the day and your body will try and recoup it the next night. And I think that has helped me recently since I've been listening to that. And I've been listening to it over and over again. Like that has really helped me.
That's interesting. Yeah, one of the things I read in this book was that apparently insufficient sleep is a key lifestyle factor determining whether or not you will develop Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, geez. Like, that
And
is, I thought that's more genetic, but I guess so. If you're genetically prone, then a lack of sleep or having wrong sleep patterns can trigger that more easily. That's probably what it says.
yeah, I think there's probably, could be genetically prone to it, but then there are lifestyle factors that can contribute to maybe the when it comes or how bad it is. And one of the key lifestyle factors is the lack of sleep, not getting enough sleep.
Right.
The other thing is that the chances of overeating go up when you don't get sufficient sleep. So it says,
oh yeah,
too little sleep swells concentrations of a hormone that makes you feel hungry while suppressing a companion hormone that otherwise signals food satisfaction. So despite being full, you still want to eat more. It's a proven recipe for weight gain in sleep-deficient adults and children alike. So, yeah, it's a big topic, and it is one of the things when I look at, we're going to talk about 2.0 a little bit later. It is one of the things that I think underpins for me what is going to be required or what is required for me to be able to be a better version of myself. Sleep is definitely involved there. Like for me to be able to achieve that, I've got to make sleep a much bigger priority. So you have a product that you wanted to share that you're currently enjoying the use of. What product is that?
I mean, you currently looking at me and you're probably, well, she looks, I'm using the word hot garbage again, but I've been using, but that's also because it's sort of like early morning. I've been sitting out in the sun, so my face is reddened. However, I'm using a really nice retinol product, and I've only just started discovering retinol, which is
what retinol?
It's a retinol, yeah. It's compound, I guess, and it's so you can have different strengths of them. It's a cream for your skin. And I've been using the Inkey list retinol serum that you apply on a well-cleaned face at night. And what it really does, it just regenerates like your layers of skin. Like you start seeing effects after, I think, 3 to 4 weeks. They usually say you should start using retinol much earlier, so in your 20s. And then when you're crossing over into 30 and your skin is taking a much longer time to rejuvenate and shedding skin layers and renewing itself, you should cross over to a much stronger component called retin A, but you have to go to a doctor to get that prescribed. So that might be my next step. The Inkey list retinol, it's a fairly affordable brand, really nice design, really nice packaging, and it just I love using it. It feels great on my skin.
Why don't you talk about negativity and what drove you to wanting to talk about this today?
Well, number one, the, Teresa version 2.0. I stole that from you. I've been using it since you and I spoke about this before, and you said, yeah, I'm calling it Clark 2.0. So I went on and used that for myself. But
should we explain that a little bit before we...
Well, it'll come through, what I'm going to start off with. Okay. I'll do the intro to this. So it's been a hectic time, as we said, due to the pandemic. It's been stressful at work, and I recently had somebody around me. They were referring to their work environment, and they said, I'm just feeling so grumpy. They were asked, hey, how are you doing? And they're like, I'm grumpy. I'm just feeling so grumpy. And it bothered me, that choice of word, so much so that it made me reflect on how I am perceived and how I am dealing with my own feelings around work and life and navigating negativity, that I said to myself, well, none of that. Like, first of all, I don't ever want to be caught saying I'm grumpy. And second of all, I don't want to let that get to me. That really got to me when that person said that. It made me, it was a buzzkill, immediately dragged me down. And prior to that, I had felt myself being and it's equally a bad term, like feeling stroppy around things and really easily agitated. I had just been repatriated from East Africa and I had to settle in sort of a new environment. So it was natural, but I figured, you know what, there is so much I can do internally in how I can respond to things. And I know that sounds like I'm preaching about this and it sounds like a, terrible line from like a self-help book, but it is
Right.
true. And ever since then, I have really watched out as to what gets to me and what drags me down. I am a person that when there's negativity around me, I react to it quite easily. Like it's almost like my radar really picks up any kind of sadness and negativity. And I don't want that. It's affecting, like I can see how my stress level increases, how my heart rate goes up, how I'm feeling just worried and concerned. And I just, when that person used the grumpy words, I said, no more of that. I'm going to put my best foot forward. And even when everything fails, say work doesn't go well, God knows in the future, ever being without a job, financially being unwell, at least on the path there, I have done it on almost like on a high note. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no point of being depressed and negative right now. You can work on being cheerful at least.
Yeah.
And that's when I spoke to you about this. And no, we texted about this actually. And you said, oh yeah, you've been working on that yourself and you're calling it Clark 2.0.
I truly do believe that negative people and being around negative people does rub off on you. And I've made a concerted effort to try to avoid negative people in my life. I did another episode, the previous episode to this one that I did with Paul, we talked about, are assholes born or made?
Oh, good one. I need to listen to that.
The whole idea that I brought up there was that I've removed most assholes from my life because of the negative effects they have on me. And I believe the opposite is also true, that if you surround yourself with positive people, that they also will rub off on you. And I want more of that in my life and less of the negative.
So you said you have detached yourself from some assholes in your life. Do you want to share some details on that? How have you done that? Have you just let it fade out? Have you cut the ties immediately? Have you told them about it? You just vanished from their lives?
I guess the fact that we moved here to Japan, by nature, you kind of limit your exposure to people. I would say the detachment or removal of assholes in my life has probably been something I did quite a while ago. So my 2.0, which is just really me trying to be a better version of myself and identifying what needs to change from Clark version 1.0 to Clark version 2.0, and certainly surrounding myself with more positive people is part of it. But I would say most of the work I did in terms of like removing negative people from my life, not that I had a lot of negative people, most of that work's done. I guess I can think of one person right now that is probably on the bubble a little bit, that it's a toughie. Because I do enjoy many aspects of that friendship, and I've just, what my strategy has been is if it gets to the negative, I just don't acknowledge it. Like I just shift it. And sometimes, have you ever heard the term frenemy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I would classify this person as a frenemy in a lot of ways, because he could be he could be a lot of fun to be around, very funny, but then he was also, I would sometimes get these like very direct, like angry sounding comments, like in particular about the job I do, like, oh, you're in sales, it's all a bunch of bullshit, smoke and mirrors. And, it was almost got very, very heavy at times, just the vitriol behind some of the words. And I think probably a little bit of drinking and that sort of thing was kind of going on. So I guess my rule, I've learned to sort of not take it personally if he hasn't been like that recently, so maybe he's kind of changed a little bit too. But yeah, no formal sort of cutting of ties or anything like that. I think I just avoid people like that, and I don't have as many people like that in my life as I may have once had.
Yeah, it's funny that you'd say that. I have exactly one of these bubble or on the bubble people around me as well. And we lead entirely different lives, right? I'm single. I don't have a fixed home. I'm traveling the world. I have a bit of an exotic job and lifestyle anyways. And that friend married with kids, never traveled much beyond, I don't know, a flight to Spain, perhaps, or so, from, within Europe, basically. And we've known each other since high school, and it's almost like they go through mood swings. I know everybody does, but they go through mood swings where it's sometimes like, oh, I envy you for your life, to I really don't think you're really happy. Like, that'll be them telling me, I don't think you're really happy where you're at, and that's why you keep vanishing. That's why you keep traveling so much. You're running away from something. I'm like, what from? Like, there's nothing that holds me currently to a specific destination. That's just fine. I'm just trying to get it all in. And it drags me down because I'm so close to that person that I cannot just brush it off. I feel like when they say things to me like, oh, I don't really think you're happy in the life that you're leading, it makes me wonder, like, oh, well, let me take a moment and think about that. That person knows me so well. Is there some truth to that? And then that really makes me spiral and be like, well, should I, be sitting in a house that I call my own with 1 or 2 kids and 2 cars and a dog, and it's almost like they're shaming me for my lifestyle, and then I start shaming myself for it. And I have on occasions when it's gotten really, and then I don't know, next day I might be picking up the phone and they're like, gosh, it's been so stressful with 2 young kids at home. I wish I'd done what you have done and gone out, seen the world. All of, the freedom, basically. So there's probably envy from their side as well. And I have come to points where I had so much anger inside me where I felt I wanted to send them a message saying like, listen, I can't take this no more. It's just impacting me so much. I gotta cut the ties. Like, there'll be sparks of that thought in my head, but I know that's, first of all, a very hurtful thing to do. It'd be much nicer to just kind of like let it fade out and, let them figure it out. But at the same time, I'd miss that person too. So it's a bit bipolar in a way.
Well, that's what so in the last episode, Paul and I talked about how I called them get out of a Mexican jail friends, which are the ones that if you call them at 3 a.m. because you've been arrested and you need someone to help bail you out or break you out of a Mexican jail or whatever trouble you're in, that they would be the first person to be like speeding towards trying to get you out of trouble. And so sometimes I think there's some friends where, yes, there are some negatives, but the positives outweigh the negatives enough that I know they're good people at heart and have my back. And so I want them in my life.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. So coming back to the original point, so I'm on this mission, and I'm quite proud of the progress that I've made of steering clear of, well, you cannot avoid negative situations. They occur, but you can decide what they do with you. So I have almost like I'm finding better tools of snapping out of it. And so I'm really, really proud of that. And maybe for a future topic, we can go more into tools that you can use, anything from meditation to apps or sort of like thought exercises you can go that can guide you onto this mission.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a good one to explore a bit more. And we can also explore sort of our own 2.0s a little bit more on, what it is, like some of the things that we're tackling, around getting from 1.0 to 2.0. I actually recently hired a coach to help me actually with this. And it's been an extremely beneficial part of my life. I've had 3 sessions, I think now. The ability to have somebody to, unbiased in a sense, like talking to your friend about some of these topics or your spouse or partner is very different than actually having a coach, because they see you in a different way. They don't have skin in the game in the same way people might have skin in the game. So one of the things that my coach said to me was that a lot of the things that, like for me, I've been looking at underlying beliefs. What are the underlying beliefs that are inhibiting me from being who I want to be? Right. And we're scratching below the surface as to what that is. And one of the things the coach said to me was, most of the underlying beliefs that we form became apparent started or originated in childhood. Like 7-8 years of age is a typical age when we started forming the underlying beliefs that hold us back, like things like maybe fear of authority, or because you maybe had a nasty teacher or a nasty parent or grandparent or somebody in your life. And so we're working on kind of peeling back some of the stuff that I think is related to underlying beliefs that I currently hold, particularly going back to my schooling when I was in elementary school, like grade 2, grade 3. I have some, pretty not disturbing, but I don't think I hope teachers aren't doing the same types of things that I had teachers doing to me, mostly just around like shaming and making you feel inferior in front of your classmates and stuff like that I think links to a few things that I'm trying to tackle right now about myself and make myself a better.
That is definitely something we need to explore. And I do remember I had sent you some texts around the inner child and the different, personas. Technical analysis, it was called. Basically, there's 3 personas out of which you treat a certain situation, one being the child, one being the adult, and one being another one. So yeah, I'd love to do an episode on that, because especially talking about people of authority and that forming people of authority in your childhood and that forming who you're now. I've been thinking about that most recently, and it boils down to 2 or 3 females in my life whilst I was growing up. And interestingly, there's 3 in my mind and they're not even related to me. So, let's put a pin in that and let's take it down for
Okay, on to strange, weird news. And I did say in the beginning we were going to avoid coronavirus, but it's hard to. And this is a story related to coronavirus, in particular, a situation in Sweden. So the headline is Coronavirus, Sweden's smelly solution to stop beer-fueled festival in park.
Okay.
So there's a park in Sweden. It's called Stadspark. Authorities in Lund, just means city park, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Authorities in Lund, Lund is a place in Sweden. 30,000 people have gathered in the Stadspark in recent years to celebrate the spring festival Valborg. And here's what they're doing. So a Swedish city is spreading a ton of chicken manure in a park to discourage people from gathering for a festival. Authorities in Lund say 30,000 people have gathered in the Stadspark in recent years to celebrate the Spring Festival. Most of these people are students, but some people travel to the southern city from different parts of the country. So in order to prevent people from going into the park, they've been spreading around this chicken manure.
And that's of such horrible stench that people would just stay away.
Yeah, it says sitting at Valborg in a park that stinks of chicken manure and where it makes noise. Oh, they also... it was a person on Facebook posted, sitting at Valborg in a park that stinks of chicken manure and where it makes noise with leaf blowing and other things is not a pleasant experience. So this is just to keep people from gathering in this park, I guess amid the coronavirus. But they say there's also a benefit that the manure is good for the lawn. It contains a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen so that we have a really nice city park for the summer season.
Which we're not going to be using really. Or, well, I guess they can still use it. They just want to prevent that gathering at that special occasion. So, sounds good to me. And we all know that Sweden has been, I don't know, can you say ahead of the curve or behind the curve? I think they still haven't quite figured it out, whether they did it right. It still remains to be seen, especially from the economic impact hasn't been as bad, but then from a health perspective, I still think they're trying to figure it all out, whether they went the right way. But that's interesting.
Right.
I don't know what chicken manure smells like, but if it really has the power to keep so many people away. I imagine if it were horse manure, I like the smell of horse, and I don't mind the smell of horse manure. In fact, it's just beautiful memories, and I just love that smell. I also love the smell of sheep manure. How? God. So I can only imagine chicken manure must be quite bad, which is interesting given that I have pet chickens. So I don't know. What's funny, I read something this morning, and look, you're so good at coming up with these stories. I had given it a try of coming up with a funny story, but I just think my radar isn't really good for these stories. But I had come across one that said that scientists had recently, they had almost gone nuts. They had been working with a colony of penguins, and penguin manure is used, it's referred to as guano, and guano is a very powerful fertilizer that's used globally for agriculture. And there was just so much that the researchers, the scientists who were working on that colony, they had fallen ill. Some of them had passed out, stumbled over. So it had, because it had whatever the chemical was, nitrogen, whatever it was that made them behave really weird, and almost stumbled over.
I actually did see that article in my search for this one about the chicken manure. I didn't read too much detail other than, that these scientists had passed out and been badly affected. I don't even think I read that it was their manure that was causing it. So I did see that story. That's interesting. All right. Well, I think that's kind of time to wrap up. Thanks again for coming on the show, and look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. Same here, Clark. Looking forward to speaking to you soon.